So here we are in Photoshop again, and I have this picture of Ruby. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Lasso tool, and we're going to make a selection around her using that Lasso tool, and we're going to delete the background so that we are silhouetting. It's called silhouetting of an object, or in this case, my dog. First, we notice what we have in front of us. I have my layers palette open, and this is a background layer and it is locked. So that means, I'll show you quickly, if I go to my Lasso tool and I do a quick selection, this is just for an example, if I want to delete this and I hit my delete key, it's going to force me to put a color in there because it's not understanding that I want to take away the background completely because I haven't told it exactly what I want to do because I've allowed this to stay locked. So we don't want to do that, so we'll cancel. All I have to do is double click on that layer background, and it now activates the layer, calling it layer 0. That's fine enough. In time, we'll talk about naming layers so that you can find objects on your artboard pretty quickly, but this is fine for now. Now that it's an open active layer, I can go to my pointer tool, my move tool, and I can actually move this layer around. So now that I have my open active layer, I want to go to my Lasso tool, and I see that it has 20 pixels of feathering, and from the last video we saw that the feathering makes a very soft edge, and I don't want it to be that soft, so I'm going to pick 3 pixels this time, and I'm going to hit return. And now I'm going to zoom in on the picture of Ruby, and I'm going to do that by hitting Command on my keyboard, hold down Command, and then hit the plus sign as many times as you need to. You can go up really tight, and you can see these are the actual pixels of color that you're looking at that make up this photograph. Now if we go back to the full size of the image, and that is Command 0, not Command O, but Command 0, you can see we don't see pixels right now, we see a photograph. But that's what this whole screen is made up of, is pixels. So for our purposes, in using the Lasso tool, I'm going to zoom in using Command plus. There is a key over here, a tool over here on the toolbar, but it's kind of tedious to have to go back and forth when you're in the middle of stuff, so I'm using the keyboard commands because they make things very efficient. Another thing making things very efficient is while you're in Photoshop and working within a very tight workspace, you've zoomed in a lot, or just a big document, holding your space bar down, if you watch my my cursor, if I hold the space bar down, it turns into a hand. And that hand helps me move around my art space. And that's holding down the holding down the space bar. I can let it go wherever I want, and I'm back to my Lasso tool. So I'm going to start here, right? I'm going to start drawing around her. And I'm making little circles like this because my hand doesn't reach all the way around the whole canvas, especially since I've made it so big. And to continue to do this, I'm going to hit Shift, hold down Shift, and then I'm going to be able to add to my selection. And this just makes it very easy to get in very close and detailed. And then I'm going to move it over by hitting the space bar and moving the photo over. Oops. Now see what I did there? I started to make a new selection and my other selection went away. So I don't want that to happen, so I'm just going to Command Z. I go back one step. My selection is on active again, and now I'm going to hit Shift, hold it down, and I'm going to go continue and start making the rest of my selection around Ruby. Moving around with the space bar, holding Shift down, and drawing around the edges of her. And we're almost there. And I'm doing this quickly. Normally I would be much more accurate so that I would make this look more like a very three-dimensional figure when we're done. And I'm holding Shift and I'm using the space bar. Almost there. Okay, so I want to zoom back out to the full image. So I'm going to hit Command and hold it down and hit 0 again. And there we are. We have everything in place. I could even go further down so I could make the image smaller. Command and minus, right? And I look, and I haven't finished it all. I still have this to go. So if I hit delete now, I've left some. So Command Z, I go back. I'm going to zoom in. Command plus, hit Shift, hold it down, and I'm going to continue on this side. Space bar to move my canvas around. There we go. And now I have selected everything. And now, Command minus to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to hit delete. And there you go. If I hit Command D, that turns off the selection. And you can see, because of my feathering, I have this soft edge that takes away part of the image of Ruby, but also leaves a little bit of the background image so that I can then put her into, say, a background. And I'll create a new layer, and I'm going to fill that layer with a color. I'm going to choose that color, and we chose the color in class to be an orange, which was really lovely. And I'm going to put 100% opacity, and it covers her completely. So what do? We take that layer and we drag it underneath, and there she is. And I do see that I have some more to clean up around the edges, so I can go back here, go back to my lasso tool, and just clean it up. And you'll also notice that because I'm on this layer, once I make that selection and I hit delete, it's only affecting that layer. It's not going to change everything in the image, just the layer that I'm working on. And then if I wanted to make a duplicate of this layer, say I want another image of Ruby up there, I'm just going to take this layer and I'm going to drag it down to that plus sign. So now I have two layers with the same image, but because they have no background, they have a transparent background, I can move them independently. You can also change the size of your layers. You can also see I do need to clean up a little bit more around the edges. I can do that with the lasso tool. But for right now, I want to show you how to change the size of each image within your Photoshop document. You go to Edit, and you can do Free Transform, which is sort of the default, the overall transforming of things, where you can transform like they do here individually, scale, you can rotate, skew, change the perspective. We're going to go to Free Transform because that's the easiest one for right now, for our purposes. And I can change her size, and I'll hit Return after I've already manipulated her size on that layer. Go down to the other layer. I'm going to do the exact same thing. That keyboard command is Command T, so I didn't have to go up under the menu. I just had to go to my keyboard and hit Command T. And hit Return again. And there you go. So now I can go to the lasso tool and I can clean up these edges on this layer. And I'm drawing with the lasso tool and then I'm hitting delete. Now watch, since I'm on this layer and I want to draw around, and I can see where that image ends, but it's also covered up by the image on top of it. It's only going to affect that layer when I hit delete now, because I'm only on that selected layer. Turn off that selection by hitting Command D. Go up to the next layer of Ruby and do the exact same thing. And hit delete. Then draw down here. Hit delete. I see a little more there and a little down there. Delete. And there I have my two nice, oops. Little mistake, that's okay. Go back to my pointer move tool and I can now move them around, and there they are. And I'm going to go to hit save, and I've already saved that. Sorry. So I'm going to hit save as. So since I'd already saved that to my desktop, this save as is going to give me another version of this, and I can save it as the same thing, or I can change the name and change the destination for it. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.